What is he now explaining to them? He had already explained in Mark and Luke. That's why we went there first. Jesus had already explained about AD 70. AD 70, when Titus and the Romans came and destroyed Jerusalem. We went through that, so I'm not backing up. Okay? Go back and look at the other videos that we did in the study, and I went through that last time. So you can always go back and pick up right here. So we dealt with number 1. We skipped number 2 because Jesus in Matthew 24 talks about that last. The reason he talked about that last is because that's the order it comes in. They ask the questions out of order. So that's why Jesus didn't answer them in order. He answered them in the proper order. What's the proper order? This is number 1. So that is correct. That's why he answered that one first in Mark and Luke. This, though, is actually number 3 and not number 2. And this is number 2. That's why Jesus answered their questions in the proper order. See? This comes first. Then the last thing that shows up is the sign. This right here is the tribulation. This right here is the second coming of Jesus Christ, literally to the earth. So that's why he answered them in the way that he did. He put them in the proper order. All right, so let's continue with verse 6. So now you understand, we are in the tribulation. The Jews, Israel, have now placed themselves back under the law. Do you know what that means? That means they are going to be following the Sabbath. What does that mean? That means on the Sabbath, they won't be able to travel. On the Sabbath, they won't be able to work. You say, so? They do that now. No, friend, they don't do that now. Some of them do. The Orthodox. But most of Israel is secular, whatever you call it. Right? And they're not following the Sabbath. Some do, some don't. But back when in tribulation, when it starts, and the temple comes back and they start doing sacrifices again, they're going to go back to following the Sabbath. That's why later in this passage, Jesus says, pray is not on the Sabbath. Because Israel has now placed itself back under the Old Testament law. It's as if the church age, the age of grace, has never happened. It's picking up right where Malachi left off. Okay, so that's what you have. So he says, hey, look, when you, Israel, when you hear about wars and rumors of wars, see that you, Israel, are not troubled. Is he talking to the world? No. Why not? Because all the focus is back to Israel. It's back to the salvation of national Israel, not the individual Jew. 2/3 of the individual Jews don't believe in Christ, and they won't believe in Christ during this time. So how in the world you know that? I showed you over in Zechariah. Zechariah 13, if you want to go look it up yourself. That 2/3 are going to do exactly what Joshua said. They're going to hang on to the old gods of their fathers in Babylon. They're going to hang on to the old gods in Egypt. They're going to want money. They're going to want help and miracles. And guess what? The Antichrist and the false prophet are going to give them all the money and miracles and prosperity that they want. and then they're going to turn around and kill them. For all these things, what things? Peace deal, the wars, the law, the Sabbath, all those things have to come to pass. It must. Can I pray and ask God for the tribulation not to happen? Yeah, you can. But God ain't going to answer that prayer. You see, I thought God answered all my prayers. Not when he got something written that says something totally different than what you're praying for. You think God is going to cancel his word to answer your prayer? Get out of here. Well, you read that out in the book. I read where he says he does anything after the counsel of his own will. That's what I read. But the end, the end of the tribulation. Now, again, what's going on with the tribulation? And why in the world didn't he stop it after the wars? Go back and read Daniel 9. Go look at what God said he's doing. Let me take you there so you can, you see what's happening? You see how it's taking you from book to book to book to book to explain what's going on here? And we're not finished with verse 6. Verse 6 has a lot in it. Now, let me go show you what God is doing. Why isn't the end? And this is what we're looking at. Why isn't the end just yet? He explained that over here in Daniel. The end is going to come when the things that God told Daniel over here in chapter 9 come to pass. Here it is. This is why. Look. I want to point this out to you. So I'm going to start up here at verse 20. And this is key. So this is why I didn't want to bypass it, because this is key of something that the Jews are going to be doing during the tribulation with the temple rebuild. Look at this. Now, while I was speaking, praying, confessing my sin. Wait a minute, Daniel's a prophet. He's confessing sin? What in the world was he doing? No, man, Daniel understood that he wasn't perfect. That's why he was confessing sin. He wasn't where God told him to be. What was that? Jerusalem. So he couldn't hold the feast. He couldn't go to Jerusalem 3 times a year like he was supposed to. Why not? Because he was a slave. He was a captive. First to Babylon, second to Persia, third to Greece. He couldn't just go leave and go to Jerusalem anytime he wanted to, even though the temple at this time was still standing. How do I know that? Because in the beginning of this chapter, Daniel said he turned toward the east, toward Jerusalem, toward the temple. So why would he do that if there was no temple there? The sin of my people Israel. Okay? Was he praying for the sin of the individual person? No, he was praying for the sin of national Israel. What was the sin of national Israel? Folks, they wasn't keeping the Sabbath. They wasn't keeping the Sabbath. So, Kevin, how in the world you know that? Sooner or later, friends, you're going to make up your mind determined to start reading the entire book. Because I'm not making up anything.